Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
And we are back.
Welcome. Okay. I hope everyone is enjoying this. So next up, we have Leo Gopal with Remote Happiness on how to build and keep mental wellness in work and life. Leo, formerly founder of WP Orgs, holds the upliftment of mental wellness as a goal close to his heart. Leo has been involved across the spectrum of WordPress for over 10 years. He finds his passion in writing and teaching. Also from Leo, he said, in this new surge of remote work, it's hard for many who are recently transitioned and still hard for many who already have been working remotely to keep a work and life balance while working at home or in a distributed company structure, even those that freelance. So after many years of doing this, Leo, with many times getting it both right and so wrong, Leo wishes to share the struggles and lessons learned from sustaining our work and life balance when we get it right, and how to recover oneself when we do not. So welcome, Leo. I hope I get them correctly.
Hello, Leo.
Hi, Sabrina. Thank you for the introduction. That was absolutely wonderful from both of you. And thanks to Big Orange Heart for everything they're doing right now.
We'll let you have the stage now.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Hello, everybody, and welcome to my talk on remote happiness. And firstly, it's on building and sustaining mental wellness in both work and life. And one of the things about this topic that's close to my heart is that, firstly, happiness in general is something difficult to acquire and to keep and sustain, um, especially when it comes to isolation, which remote work or distributed work or working as a solopreneur freelancer does to us. And because of these reasons, something over the last 2 years that has happened in the tech industry specifically, or even more so, is companies moving to remote work, who weren't planning to, or don't know how to and have had to start to because of things like COVID and lockdowns and stuff like that. And for the first time, this remote revolution has actually been that profoundly a revolution. Um, so, a bit about my background. I come from an organization that I had started called WP Hugs, which was a safe space on the internet for anyone in the tech industry, especially in WordPress, to come and just share and know that they're supported. And after a few years, WP and Up came along, and it just felt right to integrate WP Hugs into something that's more organized and better built and better supported than what I had started and been doing on my own. And so WP Hugs joined WP and Up, which is now a Big Orange Heart, which is a wonderful, wonderful platform and organization to support and be part of. So if you do, there's probably a donate button at the bottom somewhere. If you can support, it would be wonderful. One of the things I want to bring forward is that nothing is perfectly sustainable or maintainable or permanent. I think Abraham Lincoln said it best, and I think we all know the saying, "This too shall pass," which is apparently an old Persian saying. But Abraham Lincoln said, "This too shall pass. How chastening in the hour of pride, and how consoling at the depths of affliction." And that saying alone has helped me keep or maintain a state of mental wellness through both times when I was doing amazingly well at it, and especially in times when I was doing absolutely terrible at it. And for me, one of the best realizations is that I do pretty terrible at it quite often, but I learn from that even better. And before, getting things wrong and getting things bad was seen as a negative or something that I had to beat myself up about. And that's no longer the case. Now it's an excitement. If you keep getting things right, you're not learning. If you get things wrong, but you learn from it, you have succeeded twice. That's just one of the personal mottos that I choose to live by. And another one that drives me and takes me through to the next day, especially when I've had a terrible one, especially in remote work, and especially when I'm the only person that I have at home or at my home office to take care of what happens in the next day or to get through this day, is just be better than yesterday. Just as simple as that. My everyday goal is just be better than yesterday in any area, in anything, even if it's just 1%. And I know a lot of you may be able to resonate with that a bit. There's also one thing I wanted to share from one of my favorite author is Alain de Botton. Now, Alain de Botton is a French English philosopher, but the way he writes books is so amazingly accessible to everybody. He actually runs the School of Life at .com or .org. I'm not too sure right now, but I'll share that later. And he's written this book called On the Pleasures and Sorrows of Work. And during his writing of this book, it's actually a narrative of something that he's actually done. And he spends time with someone who's in an executive CEO position at a huge Fortune 500 company. He does work with someone who's an accountant for a regular day-to-day company in London. And he also spends time at work and at home with all of these people. And one of them is also a janitor. And one of the things he's noticed about all three jobs, all three levels, all three points of success that we might think of, is that there are pleasures and sorrows to both of them. And the janitor or somebody in a particular position can be as happy or with as many sorrows as someone in another. And what you notice, what the difference was the lens at which each of them viewed their world. And being a student of psychology and understanding things like the mental models, you understand that the perspective that you view the world creates your world. Your reality is different from my reality because you've been through different experiences that I have. And some things that might be true to me might not be true or work well for you. And that was one of the biggest lessons that I had to learn very early on, especially in discipline, from going from an office to moving to a remote or slightly distributed company. I read everything that there was that I could get my hands on in terms of how to do it well. And what eventually happened was I was so focused on the key things like discipline, keeping certain hours, making sure that I'm always heard, all of the basics that you learn, that I was actually overworking and underliving. And that's not balance. Even though we understand that anything profound enough in our lives is going to unbalance what you already have, and we need to find a way to fit that in and get that back in. I found that perspective of how I view things changed how I did and felt about things, which essentially is my mental wellness, and also in the same way, yours. So the fundamentals of what we might learn are true. The specifics might be completely different. So a specific thing that helped me might do damage or not work well for you. So from my side, you might have found or heard a while ago, I had a podcast done with Nathan Wrigley on WPN. It was on mental wellness and how I help myself, especially helping my future self help my former self. One of the things that I did there was, and I still have and read and learn from this until this day, is about 5 years ago, I was going through an amazingly rough patch, both work, life, and there was this moment of a few days in between what felt like many, many months of going through this, where I had this lucidity and clarity and things were going okay. And what I did during that time was I sat down and I wrote an open letter to myself. I wrote a letter from the Leo that is doing well, the Leo that is doing good, the Leo that is coping, the Leo that is stronger in essence. And I addressed that Leo, and I addressed that letter to the Leo that I know is going to come again, who's going to be weak, who's going to be going through tough times, who's going to feel alone, who's going to feel solitude, who's going to have troubles and doubt themselves, who's going to have imposter syndrome, who's going to have a lot of these issues that happen upon all of us. And that letter was both an apology, like, sorry that I wasn't there for you when you were in that bad part, but I am here for you now. And one of the things that I learned from that was reading that at the depths of affliction, as Abraham Lincoln would say, was one of the things that brought me strength, because I know now that Leo is going to come again. That strong Leo, that confident Leo, that Leo that doesn't have imposter syndrome is going to be back again. So it's one of the things that I would advise anybody to write to themselves at their strongest points, a letter that they would have loved to have read or been told by their stronger selves. Another thing I wanted to address is happiness. Although the talk title for this conference is Remote Happiness, happiness itself is not the goal, especially since being happy all the time is so tiring, just as being sad all the time is so tiring. Contentment is the space in which sustainability happens, and being more happy than sad is the goal, because the two shall pass, obviously. But along the way, one of the good friends in the WordPress community, Rob Hope, he has One Page Love, and he tweeted one thing one day about maybe 8 years ago that still resonates with me today. And he said that, what is a good life? A good life is made up of the accumulation of good moments. And the more good moments you seize in life, if you see a sunny day, if you see something and you do the things that make you happy each day and seize more of those than you would before, you accumulate what is called a good life. Nobody's life is fully good or fully not. And we can choose to seize as many of those as possible. Which brings me to one of my favorite ancient writers, Seneca the Younger, who is actually an advisor to King Nero in Rome, I believe. And he had written a letter called La Brevita Vitae, which means on the shortness of life. And in this letter, he describes that procrastination is postponement, or procrastination is a waste of life. And if you want to know how much of your life is your own, look at how much of your life you spend in the servitude of others. So for me personally, I define my work and my value based on, or I get my purpose from not hours given, but value driven. So I try and provide as much value in my work as possible and find ways to give more of that, because value as a currency over hours as a currency are very different feelings emotionally. And especially when you work from home in a remote environment, remote in the sense that you don't have your peers near you. You have them on chats, you have them on video calls. And some days you don't really have that communication at all. And those days can be harder than most, especially because you don't have the regular office coffee chat talk or water cooler talk where someone can see that, hey, you're not having a great day, or is everything all right? You seem a bit sullen today, or can I help you with something? You seem like you're very stressed. You don't really have that. And to things like that, I would really suggest that if there's somebody in your company that you feel comfortable speaking to, someone who might have maybe a level of friendship or something that you can actually have like a buddy system, which is something I would love every company to have, especially internally, is somebody that you can talk to and share your week with. And they can hold you accountable to certain things you want to hold yourself accountable to. And make sure that you recognize the areas that you went right this week, or which areas you can do so much better next week, and what you learned this week. Basically, a retrospective, but from a colleague and a friend who understands. I have a few of those. Not all of them are in the same company as me, but without them, I would have to deal with so much on my own. And I heard this one saying once that not all of that which you carry is meant for you to hold upon your shoulders. The weight you're lifting is not all yours to hold. And sharing it doesn't mean that you are imposing it onto somebody else, but it's allowing yourself, firstly, to be vulnerable and learning. The word learning is the most important part, because I consider myself a professional learner, both of work and of life. I'm not a specialist in anything. I'm a jack of all trades, master of none, which is oftentimes better than master of one. That's the complete saying, which most people don't know. But why I love that is when you learning is when experience meets introspection. So be it a failure or something that didn't go right or it could have been done better, once you introspect on it, that is called learning. And basically, if you drive for you internally, especially in your company, and especially in the work you do, that you are going to find purpose in the value that you give others, restructure your perspective into following these ideals, you'll get there. Probably something that is very close to all of us right now is what's happening in the world with COVID and how that is affecting all of us. And even though that this is quite a terrible thing that has afflicted our entire planet at the moment, one thing I have to say is that if you were to try and see a silver lining around it, I would say that personally, this is going to be one of the first experiences that our entire species is experiencing at the same time. And for the first time, someone like me from South Africa and someone who's listening from America or Europe or somewhere else around the world is experiencing the same thing. That has never really happened before. And I hope that this brings to our species a level of empathy that makes both work and living and a more graceful one, because we can understand and empathize that this new normal that we live in is here to stay, not as the pandemic, but as an evolution in our emotional EQ for each other. And remote doesn't necessarily mean alone, because you're working for somebody, be it clients directly as a freelancer or entrepreneur, or if you're working for a distributed or remote company. There are going to be other people that you work with. And I've noticed this myself in the company that I work with, Codable. There's this growing empathy for each other where people are big, even though there's so many people that are stressed out about how things are going and what the future holds, there are even more people that are growing more empathetic and helping each other during these tough times. And that is another area where it wouldn't happen if we either first never reached out and secondly never had this experience together. And I hope that we all come out of this better versions of ourselves, stronger versions of ourselves than we did when this began. So another thing that is important into having this mental wellness balance and not overworking and underliving is something almost every one of us would come across or experience at some point in our career, imposter syndrome. And a while ago, I wrote an essay about imposter syndrome because I wanted to think deeply on it, and I was feeling it quite intensely, especially as my job evolved and I took on different responsibilities that I knew others believed that I could do well, but while doing it, I didn't believe that I had the same feeling. That's imposter syndrome. But as I was writing and thinking about imposter syndrome, there's this really great psychological study by Dunning-Kruger. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, after the two psychologists, which defines something where the same amount of knowledge required to know that you're bad at something is needed to know that the same amount of knowledge that is required to know that you're good at something is also there to know that you're bad at something. So you can only actually think that you're bad at something if you're actually decent at it. And in my 10 years of doing the work that I do, working in the WordPress space, I have never met anyone with imposter syndrome that wasn't good at what they did. They were brilliant. They were just doubting themselves because they learned more. And by learning more, they learned how much more there is to know. And that's both the blessing and sometimes momentarily the curse of growth, of learning, is growing pains. Imposter syndrome is just one of those growing pains that you are and have to and will go through when you progress in your profession. Another thing that really helps and which will really help in sustainability and the way that I created my reality, the lens that I view my world from, is communication. And this is something I get wrong often because I'm sometimes trying to figure out something so much on my own that I communicated maybe too late or too unclearly with my peers or with my bosses or with the clients. And that is one thing that really, really changes the entire plethora and the ecosystem of your remote work, where you are doing your work and what work you're doing, is to communicate well, communicate often, and communicate, or as Automatic has in their creed, communication is the oxygen of a distributed company. So to be as transparent, as early, and as often as possible with those that need the transparency from you. So if I'm going through a bad time, or if I was to give a real world example, and this is one of the reasons why I decided that this talk was going to be a live talk and not going to be a recorded one, was right now you might have seen in the news or something about South Africa, is we recently experienced rioting and looting at a scale that we've never had in my lifetime. And it was scary. It was a wave of uncertainty. And your priorities get changed so much. And that was also one of the things that I wanted to bring into this talk, was that you can't plan for situations like that. The world is going to happen and you're going to respond, and that's all that we can do. So one of the emotions that I find to be not helpful at all, or not worthy of spending too much time on, is regret, remorse, or any emotion that puts yourself down or says that you could have done better, you should have done better. Like, why are you in this position? It's your fault. Telling that to yourself, because we all have limited energy. And with that limited energy that we have, we should use it well, shouldn't we? I mean, if you're going to be spending so much time putting yourself down, thinking of ways that you could have done this better, you're always going to find more. And with that same energy, you could be figuring out ways how to do it better in the future and actually do it. And put your focus on the positive of what you learned from this experience and what you're going to do moving forward should this experience happen again. And hopefully this does not happen again for any of us right now in these troubling times. But right now I know how to handle certain situations a lot better. In my case, I had not actually told my work that we were going through all of these things, and I was spending so much time stressing on that obviously other parts of my life suffered, and one of them was my emotional health and the plethora of work that I had to get done. Because I was stressing on something else, I postponed so many other things. And they had to see the news and tell me that, hey, we know what's happening right now in South Africa. Take some time off, get things sorted out, get through this. And I'm actually grateful to have such a wonderful team that I work with to do things like that with. One of the other things that makes remote happiness and remote work harder and difficult is the idea that we communicate in a way now that we could never have in the office, or vice versa. We don't have physical cues. The person's not sitting at their desk. We don't see when they're frustrated. They don't see when we're frustrated or when we're stressed. And especially now because a lot of communication is now being done over text. Text can be read in so many different, and often very early when I started remote work, maybe about 5.5, 6 years ago, I used to get this wrong really often. I would think that the client or my manager or the account manager or something was angry or upset or being sarcastic when they weren't, because I was reading text however way I wanted to do it. Hi there. And I would take this one from Max Mullenweg, who says that API, as we do in technology, but a different kind of API, which is always assume positive intent. So now when I would read somebody's work or their messages to me, assume positive intent, assume that they meant something specific, assume that they meant well, and assume that they're not trying to be difficult. They're just trying, that was the best that they could do with that communication at that time. And that is very important. And in the same way, be as positive in your intent when you're trying to write back to a client, especially if they're being difficult. Don't focus. One of the tricks that I use is, if I get an angry client or somebody trying to get a point across, firstly, don't defend in any way yourself. I would make a bullet point list of what they actually are worried about, and I would just respond to my bullet point list, not to their message, in as positive a way as I can. And that is one of the things that I find to be as helpful and as meaningful that you can get in communication in technology and as a technological specialist working remotely as you can. So that is most of what brings me to where I am now. Psychologically, it's extremely difficult at first for a lot of people to be chucked into a remote working environment. And if you don't do it right, it's going to be very difficult, especially when you're doing it as a team. So one of the advice that I would give, if there's any bosses or CEOs or anyone in charge of implementing remote work in a company that already exists, don't try and micromanage and make sure that everyone's doing what they're doing, but allow them and show them that there is trust, that you know that if they are having trouble getting something done, they will let you know. And if they and that you trust that they will get what they say they will get done if they don't say otherwise or don't bring up any opposition to that. And for me, it's the last thing that I want to leave you all with in this idea of remote happiness and sustaining it, especially in a mental wellness, is after this talk, or when you get a chance, when you feel that you're stronger than what your previous self might have been or what your future self might be, write an open letter to yourself. I'll share a link on Twitter later. My handle is @LeoGopal. And that handle and that link is on my open letter, and I'm going to share that with you. And I would like you to firstly write that open letter to yourself. And lastly, find the systems that are specific to you, but build upon what I have shared with you today, because these are the high levels of what I wanted to leave you with. And lastly, one of the things that I last want to leave you with is the last part of one of my favorite poems. Actually, that's one of the other things that I do after work in terms of like living is I write. And by writing, you experience things twice. That's been my experience. So Invictus is a really great poem, and it basically ends by saying, no matter how straight the gates, no matter how charged with punishments the scroll, I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. And that's how I would like to leave you with this talk today. I hope that I have shared enough and shared in a way that can be utilized by as many people who has been here to listen as much as possible. And I hope you have a wonderful day and a wonderful life. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Leo, for such encouraging session. I have a question by myself, if you don't mind.
Of course.
You know, these circles, when you go, you have stress about something, and then you stress about having stress.
About it. Yeah.
Do you have some sort of recipe to stop these circles?
These cycles is so hard to. That's one of the reasons why I stressed it so much in my talk. That's those certain feelings like being hard on yourself and stuff like that are things that are almost useless feelings to have. Because you end up going in those circles and you start using that energy in a way that you should be using it more positively, like finding ways to get out of that stress rather than being hard on yourself for feeling that stress. So I have felt that so many times, Sabrina, but one of the things that has helped me get out of it is at the end of the day, just spend 10 minutes with a journal and tell yourself what you've felt during that day, what has stressed you, what has gone good that you want to continue doing, what has gone bad that you want to reduce doing, and what new things you want to try the next day. And by writing it down, I leave that stress in that notebook and it doesn't become a cycle.
Thanks.
I hope that helps.
Thank you. Can you remind everyone your Twitter handle again? Is it your name and last name, Leo Gopal?
Yes, at Leo Gopal on Twitter.
And you're gonna share the letter there as well, right?
I will share that there. Perfect.
Thank you so much for your talk. If anyone has any questions to Leo, we encourage you to contact him on Twitter or join our community tent to chat a little bit about this as well. And yeah, thank you very much, Leo, for your talk. And
I think we have two questions.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah, from Alex Mangini.
Hey,
He
Alex.
says, should the goal be to sign in to work happy every day or simply show up and be content?
That's a wonderful question. And Alex, thanks for joining.
Okay.
A little background about Alex is he's actually one of the few people that taught me WordPress about 10 years ago. But to answer your question, no, the idea shouldn't be to come to work or get into your remote work and be happy every day. That's not sustainable. You are going to fail at some point. Everything changes. And the ability to adapt to that change is where you should be. So try and be content is the closest middle ground to both sides that you can be. And it's the easiest place to move between, say, sadness to contentment to happiness. So if you can find that middle ground and what works for you, that'll be brilliant. And I think there was one more question.
Yes.
How much of our identity is intertwined with our work? That depends on you. Personally, I don't believe in work-life balance, because I don't believe that we spend 9 hours a day and we can't call that life. That's life as well. So life at the office or doing something we're passionate about, and life when we aren't making a living and actually doing the living. I think both of those things should be as blurred together as possible, in my understanding.
Okay, I think we have another question from Alicia. So Alicia says, how does working from home affect our mental health compared to working from an office? How do people who need physical interaction cope with isolation?
That is a very difficult one, and something I think all of us had to learn during these times. Um, and I would also like to say that I don't like the term social distancing. It's physical distancing. It doesn't necessarily need to be social.
Social, yeah.
Yeah. So what I found was trying to find ways to plug the areas that are missing in my life. So at the office, I had the coffee breaks, the lunch breaks with people. I had the talks walking to my table. How can I have those similar experiences, even as minute as possible? So for me, I have like buddies in different areas in like the WordPress community, the South African WordPress community, where we just have a chat during the day. We play chess online, or we do something that feels more connected to somebody else instead of isolation of solitude where you're not chatting to anybody either. So not being in office doesn't mean not communicating with somebody. So even though you might need that physical stuff that will come again, hopefully when all of this is over, but in the meantime, um, get onto Discord, play a game of chess, get a buddy that has similar experiences and likes as you, and have a chat with them. It's the best thing that I can do. I do that with Alex as well, because also had lots.
Okay.
Right. Thank you so
Thank you.
much, Leo.
Have a great day, everybody, and thank you.
Yeah, I'd like also to thank our sponsors for making this event possible. So big thanks for our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, and our multilingual partner, Wiglot, and our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Memberships Pro, and please be sure to visit their tent and chat with them. You might even win some prizes. Don't forget to get your photo snapped in photo booth brought to us by Content Journey and Stratic, and be sure to check out the swag bag too for deals and gifts from our sponsors. Also, thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors, and you all make our big orange hearts full. Thank you so much. Thank you, Leo, for the session.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. and you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Hello there. This is unexpected but very enjoyable. Look who we have here. It's Nathan Wrigley and Ten Maybe. Nathan says he is a web developer and web designer, but probably almost everyone knows him by running in WP Build network community. And Ten Maybe is founder and organizer of this event, founder of Big Orange Heart and organizer of this event, and I'm super happy to have you here.
Excellent, thank you. Yes, as you've mentioned, this is a slight change to the schedule. So we're going to come in and have a bit of a conversation and get into some really interesting topics. It's really interesting to see where this goes. And,
the WP community are nothing if not adaptable.
Absolutely. Excellent. So this is entirely unscripted, entirely unplanned, and it would just be interesting to see where the conversation heads. The session that we should be listening to right now is intended to be a wellness session. So I guess it would be good just to trigger the conversation around that initially and see where this leads. And yeah, this idea of obviously this global event and the way we're delivering it, across 24 hours, so we can, bring our community together, I think is quite a special way of doing it. But equally, there's this issue of obviously, from a well-being perspective, spending an awful lot of time in front of screens. And I just wonder what we could, see where this goes in terms of, how do we manage our time, and how do we deal with that, spending that time in front of screens?
Yeah, spending a lot of time in front of screen makes you even more appreciate the time away from the screen, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a good point. My eyesight has actually deteriorated in this last year, I think, because of the amount of time. I didn't used to wear glasses just about 18 months ago, but now I've sort of been forced to wear glasses. But I think Sabrina's right. I'm really cognizant of, let's say it's 6 o'clock in the evening, the time that I would traditionally shut down the computer. I'm really aware now that I want to do that much more than I used to. I used to find myself sort of drifting in the evening and sort of doing a little bit of stray work here and there. And I've created much more of a barrier, which is healthy. Essentially, I work from home, so this is my house, and it's very easy to just come into this room, and an hour can go by, and the family gets pushed to one side, if you like. But trying to treat it more like a office hours scenario, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
How do you, Yusuf? How do you find the distinction between home life and work life if you're working remotely?
Well, I haven't been working from office right from time, so I don't see it challenging really. I've been working, well, I just finished school last year. I'm sorry, 2 years ago, 2019. So I just started with remote work fully. So I've not really experienced going to the office or not. So I can't really talk about the differences between going to the office and working from, I've been working from home from start. So, but I actually want to work in an office this time around, because it's kind of stuffy at home sometimes. I get to, okay, where do I go to? Who can I visit? And everybody's kind of busy with their work. So I just try to cope with other things like maybe playing football or something. So
Yeah, I think that distinction between our home and office life is so important, isn't it?
When I was growing up, my father used to work from home. So right from being a child, I was always surrounded by that proposition of, my dad would basically get up and there would be a bit of the house which was his work, and he would go there, and he had a really interesting technique to alert us that he was at work, and that is he would wear these specific shoes, and if he was wearing those shoes, then he was at work. And if you saw those shoes on his feet, he really wasn't to be interrupted. So he might stray into the kitchen to make himself a mug of tea or something like that. But that was kind of indicative of, actually, I probably can't get engaged in a long conversation with you, because in 2 minutes I'm going to have to go back. And that was a really interesting little trick, and it worked. And I did do something similar for a while and then just abandoned it, because very often made the same mistake. But it was really intelligent, I think, for him to put that barrier in place to say, look, I can't be present for you right now. But as soon as the shoes come off and these other shoes are replacing them, I'm back. I'm your dad again. And it worked. It was a nothing but a something.
This sounds like such a good hint. I've seen someone at someone's podcast. I can't remember whose podcast was that, but they're having like a small light that says on air, that they can switch in on and off, so the family can see that they are working or not working at this very time. This is so handy.
I tried one of those. I built something with a Raspberry Pi, and it said on air, and it broke, and it never got repaired. So
that's cool.
Right.
But it is quite nice to make that definition. And I know, Dan, you work from home as well, so I'm guessing you face the sort of same conundrum of trying to be present with the family when you're supposed to be present.
That's right. I'm very fortunate in that I have a dedicated space. So I have a dedicated room that I use for my office.
Wow.
So at the end of the day, I can shut the door, and the other side of the door is my home life. This side of the door is the work. So I can create that very clear distinction. But I appreciate many people don't have that.
Of course, I don't. I personally don't.
Mhm.
I've been trying to control the volume of the speakers here since, kind of.
Sure.
Yeah, because there's other things going on in the environment that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's been one of the big challenges of the last year is hopefully we're looking at a piece like chink of light at the end of a tunnel, which means that maybe we won't have to go through all of that again. But the last year, an awful lot of friends of mine have been forced to work at home, and yeah, really two worlds just totally colliding, the family and the work in a largely impossible to manage manner. And you've got to be on a Zoom call, but the children are in the background, but there's nowhere to take the children because it's the middle of November and it's cold outside, so they can't even go in the garden and all of that. What a tough year we've had. And I feel that of all the industries in the world, we were the best prepared. We were so lucky that we basically, I'm imagining that for most of us, our environment is basically a laptop. Which you can sit anywhere and do it. But I feel really privileged that was an environment which was already set up, and we all knew how to use Zoom and all of those kind of things. So whilst it's been hard, I believe we've probably had it a lot easier than a lot of other people have had.
Yeah, I saw this news not long time ago that Deloitte had moved all their staff to remote, and they are the first company of this kind, like consulting, finance, and everything, like very structurally organized company who did this, and this is kind of boom in their ecosystem. And yeah, I was thinking, really, we are so lucky, all of us, just to take it as granted. And people were waiting for this to happen during 2 years from now. This is so cool. Yeah, another thing of being in IT, in WordPress community, being a remote worker. Yeah.
But I think it's touching on the WordPress community side there. It's been wonderful to watch how the community has responded and how the community has just worked so hard to continue to try to deliver events and continue to try to come together in this remote environment. I mean, here we are right now, we're talking across international borders, having this conversation streaming out to multiple international territories, and we're sitting here in an event with hundreds and thousands of people from different regions that we're coming together, and that there's that. How do we maintain that? How do we keep that going forward? I think Nathan and I, we've had some conversations around the idea of how do we continue to deliver virtual events, and bringing down the barriers that virtual events have done for us. They've torn down the need for visas, the need for travel expenses, and as we move back into this in-person event space. How do we continue to do that?
Well, a conversation that you and I had recently, and then I carried it on with various other people, just because just to see if you and I, if your opinion and my opinion was reflected across multiple people. I feel that really the future is going to be a kind of hybrid of events. A good example would be a couple of years ago, Dan, you and I, you kind of took me to WordCamp Europe. And for us, that was relatively straightforward. We didn't have to go through the visa complication. We were able to hop on a plane. We were able to get hotels and so on and so forth. But it's monstrously expensive to do those kinds of things. And obviously, if you're living in a certain part of the world, it might be a really difficult proposition for you to get to the other side of the world. But you may have a really legitimate reason to go. You've got a WordPress product and you would like to demonstrate it to everybody and so on and so forth. I kind of feel that in the future, this hybrid event, so what we've got now could easily be gelled in with the live event, even if it was just mere commentary, questions coming in from all over the world to be asked of the speaker, and people all over the world have just consumed the content live, watched it via a Facebook feed or Big Orange Hearts platform, and then just ask the questions. I don't know if it's really possible to go much further than that at the moment. I don't know if it's I don't know, we're at the stage where you could have an actual online event embedded in an event.
Hopefully.
But
Yeah, I think it's possible because I had an experience that should be 2019. We had an event in Lagos, Nigeria, and even though the event was physical, we had some people that were live also. So those people didn't necessarily needed to travel down to Lagos, but some of us were in Lagos. Even myself, I wasn't in Lagos because I was serving then in another part of the state. So people were in Lagos, others were watching live, and some other speakers were speaking from their location. So I think the hybrid kind of a thing will be fine. It should work. And also, I can say that it will work again because currently I just finished an internship online. Everything was actually online, but we got to a stage that some of us that came from the same state where the lockdown has actually been lifted, people are already moving. So we wanted to meet each other and share some ideas so we could just form a channel on Slack and call it the internship with our states, and people joined, and we were able to, one or two people were able to meet, and it was sort of, some of us were meeting physically and at the same time taking part in the internship, which was all over the states, like all over Nigeria, people joined, and even some people outside Nigeria joined the internship. So I believe the hybrid sort of a thing would work.
I think there's this conversation around how do the pressures that puts onto organizers, because you've got there's the delivery of the virtual and the delivery of the in-person, and if we particularly talk about meetups, we're generally talking about a smaller scale event as opposed to a larger scale in-person conference. And we used to do it for our WPLDN, our WordPress London events, where we would take an enormous amount of equipment in for cameras and for AV equipment, for us to be able to stream the sessions. So it meant that when we went to the lockdown, we were already very familiar with delivering a streamed version of our event, but that level of equipment that it required to be able to deliver that hybrid style event is something that we, as a community, we need to talk about. How do we practically do this? There's this great idea of being able to do the hybrid, and I'm totally for the concept, but I also see that it puts a lot of pressure on the organizers.
Yeah. I'm running a local meetup in Kiev, and we were doing this before pandemic too. So whenever we get there for meetup, we will just put my phone on the table on tripod, and we will be live streaming the sessions. And no one was watching questions coming or anything. We will be just live streaming, so people at least will be able to see what's going on, what's happening there. But yeah, obviously the quality of this is it's just not there. The slides, they can be quite visible. The sound is not perfect. The questions are not in sync. It's not like someone is asking questions and you immediately can ask the speaker. No, I think it has a long road to go to. I think we'll have some opportunities to practice, won't we?
If only somebody would invest some time and build a platform that would manage all of this. Dan. No, but in seriousness, I think you're right. I think maybe my commentary there was more about the bigger word camps, where there's obviously a lot of time and effort goes into every aspect of it, and it feels like the hybrid component would be kind of almost a regression if we didn't have some of that going forwards. But I completely agree, Dan. I think for the smaller meetups where there's a handful of people, or certainly less people, you just need somebody who's interested in that kind of thing. But like Sabrina says, these days, if you don't go for the approach of we're going to sync the questions and put the slides up on the screen, if you don't go for that approach, and you're literally just pointing a camera and sticking it into YouTube or something like that, it's possible. But you just need somebody that's got the technical, the interest to do it, I would say.
it's the it's when does it start to deteriorate? You know, if you're focused on the in-person, is the virtual suffering, or if you're focused on the virtual, is the in-person suffering? And actually, is there an argument that are we better to serve our local environment, you know, our local community, sorry, by delivering an in-person, locally focused meetup? Or, you know, do we look at the much wider? I mean, the WPLDN event, we've got members coming in from over 100 global territories now into those events, whereas previously we would have the vast majority of the people in the room would be from London, that single location. I'm personally, I'm all for the much wider, much more diverse, much more interesting. You get so much more going on when you've got a mix of people in the conversation.
Yeah, I suppose that the exact thing that you don't want to happen is that everybody, in your case, from London, just starts watching it online. So the room is empty apart from you, Dan, and Leo, and the speakers, and everybody else is just watching on the screens back at home. That's the exact antithesis of the hoped for outcome. But from what you're saying, it seems like the London crowd were happy to go to the event because it's much more than just watching a speaker, isn't it? There's the bits and pieces before and after, and the camaraderie, and dare I say it, the quick nip to the pub at the end, and so on. And the people that obviously are not in London or can't get to London, whether they're from an international destination or what have you, for them it's just an added bonus. Yeah, it's interesting though. I hadn't really thought about the whole. Is it the worst of both worlds or the best of both worlds? You'd kind of hope that it would be the best. I guess your experience and expertise in this area, Dan, will teach a lot of people.
I think we certainly had that question around, if we start to live stream the in-person event, is it going to deteriorate the number of people that are actually attending? Because you have got that option. Oh, you know what? I just watched this on screen. We actually saw the numbers increase on both sides. So we saw more people attend and we saw more people join by the live stream. So I don't know, Sabrina or Youssef, the idea of streaming, obviously Sabrina, you just mentioned that you were using the phone to stream the meetups. Was that ever a concern of yours in terms of, you know?
So what I would do, I would just put my phone so the speaker can be seen and heard very well. And then we'll be sharing the slides like a regular link, so anyone could listen to speaker, see him or her, and then they could go through slides, because I didn't find the way to make large screen nicely visible with another screen. You know, this is a trick. You really need some nice equipment to do this, to reconnect everything and stuff. Yeah.
And how about yourself, Youssef? Did you have any concerns?
Well, not really, because I do join the Zoom meetings or have Zoom calls. So, you know, you can always share your screen on Zoom and just listen and see your screen. So that's mostly what I do, and I haven't really think of other way around. I just use Zoom call. Okay, I will need to see your screen. I just think of Zoom straight. So.
Excellent. I think this is one of the greatest, one of the really wonderful things about the the WordPress community is this resilience, this determination. We will come together. We will continue to meet, and we will continue to spend time together. And some wonderful things have come out of it. It's a as awful as this situation has been on a global scale, there has been these benefits in relation to reducing the barrier to entry for people to come together.
It's a really curious consequence of the last year that I've drawn closer to my WordPress friends than I have with the friends in the real world, because obviously,
we are real world. Excuse me.
Well, no, you know what I mean. I mean, literally, I open my door. That's the people I'm talking about. So my local community, because they're just more willing to do what we're doing now. There's very unlikely that the people that I know. I'm trying to get the right words now, Sabrina. So I'll say local, my local community, they're very unlikely to want to hop on a Zoom chat with me. It's just not what we do. We'll wait and we'll see you in 6 months' time or whatever it may be. And so I've ended up in numerous calls like this with people in the WordPress community, and it's cemented them as rock solid friends. It's been amazing.
I'm thinking what in-person events give you that online events just are not capable of.
Stickers. I don't have any stickers anymore.
Stickers. Yeah, of course.
Swag, all the swag.
We have the stickers.
Yes, I was trying to get some, but I saw that it was going to be delivered August from, I don't know. So, but I hope I'll still able to get it.
I was sorry, Dan.
Sorry, Nathan. Just on that, we're kind of joking around about stickers, and but then you think about this. I've got a pack of 50 odd stickers sitting here for WordFest. I start shipping that out to individual people, and suddenly the environmental impact in relation to all of this starts to become a factor. And of course, when we're talking about the in-person, obviously the traveling to be together in person. But going back to your question there, Sabrina, about what's missing, I think that there is nothing more special when it comes to an in-person event than that hallway track. Those impromptu conversations. It's just the things that come off of those conversations.
Yeah, and you start talking about nothing, and suddenly you jump into professional topics, and you find out that you have a lot to talk about your work specifically. But you started to talk about traveling, or source of beers, or anything,
Yeah.
I was chatting to somebody the other day, and this little part that we're having of the conversation just randomly cropped up, and they made the exact same point as you did, Dan, and that is the random interactions, the things that end up happening out of the mere coincidence of you bumping into somebody in a hall. So business partnerships, literally, friendships, business partnerships, entire industries born out of people just talking and overhearing and interrupting and just standing over in the background listening and then lurking and then finally plucking up the courage to go and say hello. That I feel is a real difficult barrier, and I'm sure, Dan, you'd agree, there seems to be something about the in-person stuff which allows that to happen. You really can let yourself go and get into that, and online there seems to be a reluctance to have the same experience. You don't really want to go onto that virtual table and make yourself present, because you can't really lurk, can you? You're there. As soon as you're in the room, you're there. And if you've got nothing to say, it looks weird. So all of this. And so I think you're right, Sabrina, and you're right, Dan, that it's the random stuff that happens in the hallway. I mean, show of hands, who likes the hallway track?
Right.
Love
Two
the hallway.
mine.
Yeah, both hands come up. It's where I tend to lurk most of the time. It's fabulous. I love that stuff.
On the other hand, sorry, Dan, go on.
No, sorry, carry on.
On the other hand, I was thinking technical talks, especially difficult technical talks, they are really much more easy to watch when you can stop, when you can pause, Google something, and you're not quite getting it at the moment, and you can get back to it in some time. It's much more easier when they're online. It's huge, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we for Big Orange Heart, we developed the Big Orange Heart Live Events platform, which is part of the core of what we're using today for WordFest. And we opened that platform up to other communities, and we said, look, we as a part of our charitable focus, we want to enable communities to come together. We want, and at this time where obviously people can't, or people are struggling, a lot of communities jumped on Zoom and realized that Zoom just really wasn't the right solution. That ability to be able to come together is so special. But the focus for us within it has been, how can we try to replicate as best as we possibly can that freedom of movement within an environment, because we saw it so often in the early stages of the pandemic, where multiple Zoom rooms were used. And that additional cognitive load that was being put on attendees, we're trying to figure out, well, which room do I need, which Zoom link do I need, who's going to be in there when I get in there, and it's just so many additional challenges that we've tried to reduce. But I certainly don't. You will never be able to fully replace that in-person experience with a virtual solution. but the delivery of technical talks has been really successful because, as you said, it enables you to do. You can get the the full screen. You can really allow it to focus on that time whilst that session is being delivered.
There's all the other curious things that go on at WordCamps and so on as well. You know, like the kid camps and the sort of wellness areas where you can go and do the various different things. And obviously, that's really almost impossible, I would say, to replicate. We're in the realm of things. Just, you know, a session starts at a particular time and it ends at a particular time, because that's the nature of how it's got to be. There can't really be any sort of, okay, I've finished up here, we'll carry this conversation on over there. So honestly, I'm desperate for the WordCamps and meetups to come back. But for now, honestly, Dan, bravo for what you and the team have built. It's an impressive bit of work. And I know you're very modest about it, but what we're using right now is what Dan and the team have built, and it's an astonishing achievement. Well done.
Thank you.
Well done, Dan.
I appreciate that. And
I actually like this more. I can see 4 people at a time. I can chat. I don't have to. It wasn't difficult for me to navigate, actually. I like it here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's that, I guess. Okay, honest question here. Let's put each of us on the spot. When we've got an opportunity to get back into in-person, we can be there with people in real life. Will we continue to attend a virtual event? Nathan.
Oh, that is a good question. Yes, because okay, there's going to be some that I will go to in the real world, and I will absolutely move heaven and earth to go to them. And so that's just the way that's going to be, because I want to be there. But maybe there's going to be a bit of me which cherry picks what I want out of the virtual events, more than just sort of hanging out for a day and having it on in the background whilst I do other things. It might be more, okay, I've bookmarked that one. I want to see that hour in particular. Maybe I'll stray into that a little bit more.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sabrina.
I think there should be some downsides and upsides, right? And if upsides, they're kind of more valuable for you than the downsides, you choose it over doing something else, right? So I'm thinking, like, what's the really, really large upside of the online events like this is what you mentioned, Dan. The possibility to connect with people around the world. It's not even at WordCamp Europe and WordCamp US, it's not that easy, not that possible. Event like this makes it possible, right? First of all. And the opportunity to hang out with people whom you already know around the world. Yeah, I think this is the main reason why I would attend.
Yes, I am going to attend some, and most likely a lot of WordPress events, because this is my first time on a WordPress event, actually. So there haven't been any WordPress around me that I've been able to attend physically. So I have seen recently. I've just started seeing events, Elementor events here and there, but I haven't been able to attend them. So this is my first WordPress, and if I am going to be part of this WordPress for as long as I want to be, then I have to join communities like this and stop working alone from home. So I think I'll attend more online events, most likely, because it would come. You say, I heard you mention WordCamp London or something. So I'm just hearing some of those things after joining. Yeah, I think it was Tofa. I hope I'm right. It was Tofa that actually sent me the links to those events that I had to check them up. And it was the one that joined our Slack channel on WordPress Nigeria. So that's where I got the link to come to WordFest and volunteer. So I think I've seen what the online events are bringing. I think I'll prefer more of the online events, since I even don't have the local events here for me.
Sure.
So.
Excellent. I think that's really interesting. So this is your first WordPress-focused event, and here you are
Exactly.
emceeing for us. So thank you very much.
It's astonishing. Bravo. Yeah, that's amazing. Well
I mean,
done.
Thank you.
it's definitely something I've spoken about many times. Yeah, if you want to get involved with the community, get involved with the community. Actually, volunteering is by far and away one of the best
Yeah.
experiences I've gone through. In my WordPress, within the WordPress community. So, Yusuf, thank you very much.
It's a
Yeah,
really
thank
good
you.
way at those live events and these online events to give yourself a purpose there, isn't it? Rather than, let's say that you're a bit concerned that you're going to go to, let's say, a real world in-person event, you may have some sort of fear that you're going to be a ship without a rudder and not know who you might talk to. But if you're wearing the hat of, well, I'm volunteering and I'm doing this particular thing, you've got a purpose, and you'll move with more purpose, and you'll have things to do, and you'll meet people. Whether you like it or not, because there'll be things you must achieve together. Yeah, it's a really.
And you don't need to invent the topic to start the conversation. You always have it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yes, yeah.
That's a good point.
I think it's really interesting this time, because we've got, as a community, we've got individuals that are extroverts, we've got individuals that are introverts, and in between. And it's that some people feed off that environment of being around people and get energized by being in amongst a group of people. Some people prefer their own time, their own space, to be able to re-energize in that environment. But I think in this period of the last 18 months or so, that opportunity for the individuals that like to be in the groups and energize off being around people, that's been taken away. And trying to plug that gap with things like this. I don't know. Are any of you? Do any of you prefer to? Do you gain your energy from being in groups of people?
I really do. I really enjoy being in groups of people. I really miss that a lot. Really missed it a lot. And also, I think that the curious thing about the whole online thing is it's so easy to, even if you're becoming mildly disinterested, it's very easy for the world outside my door. I could just go and make a cup of tea and I'll never come back in. Yeah. Whereas the in-person events, you're sort of there, aren't you? And you've committed to it, and you by dint of the fact that you've got on a train or a bus or a plane or whatever it might be, you're more there. You're more in person, and even if you're mildly disinterested in the topic, you'll probably just walk out of the auditorium and go and chat to somebody and stay around.
Sure.
And there you are again in the hallway track.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it always happens. It's the inevitable consequence of going to a WordCamp is the hallway track. One day I would like to attend a WordCamp where there's only a hallway. Just that would be ostensibly the pub, really, isn't it?
I'm really interested in seeing if we can deliver a large scale virtual conference similar to this, but as an unconference, so we don't have any structure to it. So I really enjoyed the in-person unconference model. I don't know if any of you have ever
this sounds like a real festival then.
Yeah,
but it's just about what are the people in the room wanting to hear, wanting to talk about, and where does that conversation go? And ultimately, that's really where the idea of the hallway track really sits well.
I suspect, Dan, that 18 months from now you'll have put it on, and we'll all be in attendance.
Sure.
I'm not going to commit to that.
No, I wouldn't ask you to. Yeah, no. Curious.
And I think, speaking of the hallway track, we are pretty much at the end of this session, this unconference session, this unintended. Really appreciate your time, all of your time, to have this conversation. I just want to lead in that we are actually going to be breaking for 15 minutes, where we are encouraging you to go and join the community tent. So we've been talking a lot about the idea of the hallway track and those conversations. Please do head over to the community tent. We've got some fantastic sponsors in there that are running sessions continually through the 24-hour period, so join them. But equally, you can also spin up your own tables in that space, and you're free to move around. You can see who's on which table, so you're aware of what you're stepping into before you do it. Yes, Yusuf, Sabrina, Nathan. This has been a little bit strange. It's kind of switching from MC
Most
to
enjoyable.
speaker.
Most enjoyable. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Appreciate all of your time. Thank you very much. And if you're out there watching, appreciate you being with us here at WordFest Live.
Good.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Discover Weglot, the simple translation solution for your website. All you have to do is add Weglot to your website. Select the languages that you need, and that's it. Your website is now available in multiple languages.
Hey, long time no speak.
Yes, all of 15 minutes. How are you, Dan?
I am very well, very excited to be here, welcoming in WordFest Live into the European continent. So this is actually marking our halfway mark. We are halfway through WordFest Live already. But that means we've got a whole other 12 hours of WordFest Live to come.
Yeah.
Very excited about. Excellent. Okay, so WordFest Live is brought to you by Big Orange Heart. Big Orange Heart is a registered non-profit supporting, promoting positive mental health and well-being within the remote working communities. We hope you are enjoying this event. We really hope that you are being able to participate across it. If you are enjoying and if you have the means, please do feel free to make a donation towards Big Orange Heart. The option to make a donation is down the bottom left-hand corner.
Shall we get things started in this part of the world? Okay, so we're going to start off this round with diversity in technology, a panel discussion. We'll be joined by Francesca Morano, Christy Chirinos, Mike Demo, Nigel Rogers, and Chea Oosterbroek as they discuss the issues of diversity in the technology field from their own experiences and where they see the future of inclusiveness in the community.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Hey, David Bissett from PostStatus here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the PostStatus Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and get free WordPress migration and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for being with us. This is WordFest, and this is a panel on diversity. I have some excellent guests here with me. My name is Francesca Marano. I work at Yoast. I lead the WordPress core team. We make WordPress together with other hundreds of people. And today I am really honored to have some great people here with me discussing diversity and inclusion and equity, or whatever you feel like you want to say. Now is the time. So I always go alphabetically. Chaya, you're first. Hi.
Well, thank you, Francesca. Yes, I am Chaya, and I am one of the partners at Yoast. And of course, I have to share a lot about my background, but I will wait for that as you instructed me.
Don't make me sound like I'm a bad person and I
you are not.
And I give orders. Next we have Christy.
Yes, safe by a couple of letters in the alphabet from going first. My name is Christy Chirinos. I am now working as the partner community lead at Codable.io, which is the largest marketplace for WordPress freelance developers. And my job is specifically to work with all different types of companies that do WordPress anything to figure out how 550 plus vetted WordPress experts can work for you.
Good, and congratulations on the new job.
Yeah, it's brand new. It's week 5.
Yeah. And now we go to Mike. I do this because that's how I see you.
Hi, I'm Mike Demo. I'm the expert community development lead also at Codable. So I help connect new potential WordPress freelancers to join our platform of our hundreds, if not thousands of clients, and help them work how they want to work and make more money. And that's what I do.
Congratulations too for you. It's also a new job.
Yeah, week 8, I think, 7 or 8.
I see. And now we go to Nigel.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nigel M. Rogers. I'm the co-organizer of the Harare WordPress meetup, and I'm a web developer, freelance web developer. I help people with their websites during the day, WordPress websites only. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
So welcome. It would be so great to do this in a room together, but I also think it's great that we have the opportunity to do this like this, so maybe we can reach more people and maybe people will listen to us, and this will be useful for a higher number of people. So I asked everyone, this is the first question, to come up with their own definition of diversity and inclusion. So who wants to go first? We're not going to go alphabetically this time because this would not be fair to Chaya.
I wouldn't mind to start off. So for me personally, it's beyond gender quota, ethnicity, ageism, and so on. The basis start with equity, with the ability to embrace perspectives. And because everyone brings their own perspectives to the table. So if we would be able to treasure that and see the true value, we would be able to fast forward time, I guess.
Who else wants to say something? Christy.
Okay. Oh, I got called on. That's what happens when no one raises their hand. I have mine ready though. Obviously everything that Shaya said, to me, diversity and inclusion means that everybody belongs. And a lot of my past experiences inform that sense, and we'll talk about that. But I think at its core, it is that we as humans are social creatures, and we want to be in groups where we belong, and a diverse and inclusive world makes that happen everywhere.
Amen.
Yeah.
Nigel, Mike, do you want to say something?
I don't really have a whole lot to add to those two wonderful answers, but it's, yeah, you want everyone to belong. You want ideally their perspectives to be seen, and not have it be just kind of, like a note being like, oh, well, we, have this percent, or, have it just kind of be part of the conversation naturally and not have it be an afterthought. And obviously when companies start looking into this, you realize what you don't know. And that's why, we have conversations like this to try to share different perspectives, because I can share my perspective as an LGBTQ plus person, but I can't really speak to some other parts of diversity very well, because so that's why it's nice to be able to actually have a discussion with everyone.
Thank you, Mike.
Yeah.
Nigel.
Yeah. So yeah, that's basically it. So I'm just gonna basically round it off and say that what I see in diversity is when an organization, whether it be an open source project or a company or a government, reflects the structure of the society in terms of all the people who are in the society, and having them all have an equal or equitable representation in the organization. And then inclusion is making sure that all accommodations are made for those people, and also making them comfortable and making them feel part of the organization and feel welcome. So that's diversity and inclusion.
Thank you. Wow, you all knocked it out of the park. Everyone is always a bit like, what I'm gonna say, and you all got the message out, I would say, in the first 10 minutes. One thing that I would like to hear from anyone who wants to talk a little bit about this is the business side of diversity, including diversity in what you do, whether it's your job or you're volunteering in an organization or anything you can think of. There's also some like business side.
Mm-hmm.
What do you all think?
So I think that if you could incorporate it in your core values and give an explanation on a practical level, so how do you go about that? And that is something that we did at Yoast. We have one of our core values is equality and inclusiveness. And we make a statement that we believe that, that Yoast believes in equality over differences. But how do you do that in your day-to-day? And if you want to give everyone the same opportunities to advantage to make an impact, how do you go about that? If it's for you just the standard, that's a question I would have. Because at Yoast, we have a whole mix of people. And we don't look at background, we just hire you for your talent and if you fit the role. So we don't ask questions, specific questions. So yeah, I can go on and on about this, but I don't. It's really my topic, of course. But before I joined Yoast, I worked I started being an entrepreneur, I guess, in 2015. And I did a lot of different things. But before that, I was working in several corporate companies in different management roles. And I thought that was my career path. But being not educated, you need to stand out even more, doing 3 times the work and stuff. So before you got noticed, you can climb the ladder, if you would say that. So what I took from that is that we also have something to do being on this panel. sharing our experiences. So when I met Marieke and Joost, the founders of Joost, and they didn't ask me one question about my background, I was, okay, this is a company I want to join, because we were talking about my talents and where I would fit. Yeah. So sometimes it's it's complicated, because if it's your standard, you don't think about it.
Yeah.
I don't know how to express in English much better, but
no, I think it makes perfect sense. I think the message is loud and clear.
Okay, so you asked about the business side. Does it make good business to, focus on diversity? And when you said that, what it made me think of is from the customer or side, not necessarily is that consumers can tell when you're being authentic. And if you try to, share with them, their values and understand who they are and what makes them unique, that kind of comes across. Like, there's always the companies that do stuff for like Black History Month, or, Asian Pacific Islander History Month, or Pride Month. And, some people say that it's, it's just lip service, but some companies, it's not just a 1 month a time thing. So studies have shown that when you try to reach out and, try to accommodate in your advertising and marketing, and even in who is employed by you, make up your customer audience, that your sales do go up. So it's kind of hard, because in the US here, there years ago, there was that bakery who didn't want to sell gay wedding cakes, right? Mm-hmm. And there was lawsuits and things. And I'm kind of split, because not being a bakery and not wanting to sell cakes to gay people is just not good business if you're a bakery. And over time, the invisible hand theoretically should take care of that. But the other part of me thinks that no, they should be inclusive and accepting of everyone. But it works better when a company's true values and they actually have integrity to believe, what they're saying publicly. So I think over time, the market will hopefully take care of itself, but that's not always the case. So, but yeah, it's good business to, respect and, the people that are giving you money. So.
You would think so, huh? Nigel, do you want to add something?
Yeah, it's just echoing what Mike said, which is when you have a more diverse organization, it reflects the market more. So if you have mothers and people with disabilities, for example, and you're designing your website, you want to make sure it works on mobile, so that a mother or a single-handed person can navigate through the website and things like that. So yeah, that's basically an echo of what Mike said.
Yeah, thanks. Christy, do you want to add something?
I could throw more statistics at all of us about how everything everyone said is true. I mean, at this point in 2021, there is no argument that when you have a diverse team, they can sell to a diverse group of people. There is no argument that when you put women in leadership, the entire organization will be more diverse and more profitable. We've seen it over and over and over for decades, right? So at this point, I don't really know that it's like, how can you miss this evidence, right? Like if you're saying
yes,
that diversity, we want the best people, well, cool. Like here's 20 research papers that say that you're going to get a better return in your bottom line if you put diverse people in charge, And so for me, it's always funny when I see companies that are like, well, we're not looking at diversity because we want the best people for the best results. It's like, okay, well, all right, good luck with that, And And you know, from a personal level, I had something that I noticed a few weeks ago that I thought was really interesting. I had never consciously thought about it, but for most of my life, I just haven't really cared a whole lot about TV and movies. I mean, you know, like I don't dislike TV and movies, but I've never been really into like a favorite show and watching and things like that, right? And recently I started getting really excited about a handful of shows. And I realized that I started getting excited about shows where I could see people who looked like me. And I wasn't even doing this consciously, right? Like never in my entire life have I been like, I'm not watching that show that everybody likes. Nobody there looks like me. Like I don't expect that. I just found myself telling my friends, hey, you know how you've known me for 30 years and I never really watch any TV. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, well, I really got into Kim's Convenience. It was so cute. And the lessons were this and this and that. And then I kind of realized that what I was saying was I saw some of my childhood reflected, and I've never seen that on television before. And so, you know, you just made a consumer out of me. Good job, right? Like I'll pay you for another month of Netflix. And I think that's a really powerful thing when it compounds.
Does it compound?
Does it?
There are people that seek out that, right? You know, there's things like I get on the mailing list of the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce. And there's people that seek out, you know, specific types of businesses. Like I'm looking at changing my domain registrar to LGBT owned domain registrar, even though it's going to cost me 5 times within what GoDaddy costs just to support that business.
Yeah.
So there are people that specifically seek it out, but you want it to compound, so it's just kind of naturally happens, and you're not just niching down and trying to service the niche, because that doesn't really help with growth.
Yeah. I don't know. I think I'm the oldest one here in this room, in this virtual room. And some of these things, I've been hearing them for a very long time. How do we not perpetrate this loop of we got to do better? This is how we do better. We're back to square one.
I guess we need to realize this, what you are actually saying. So we need to stand up over and over again until, and maybe we touch on that later, some blue sky thinking, is that we wake up in a different world. And I guess that I just turned 40, and looking back at all these years, I had to do this talk every now and then. And yeah, when you invited me, I could have thought, okay, yeah, no, done that, been there. But I thought, okay, no, it's still there. It's still something on the horizon. We need to fight or need to battle. So I would try to inspire everyone to stand up over and over again until it is not necessary anymore. And all these words of gender quota, they disappeared. And hopefully there will be a generation. And I guess that here in the Netherlands, when I talk to my little nieces and nephews, it's not a topic for them.
Yeah.
So I have hope.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is to stand up every time. Just stand up and say what you think and how we should change the world. It's an easy one, maybe an open door, but I feel that is what we need to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that leading by example is always the best choice. So have you ever found yourself kind of having these conversations with people in your family or your friends and being like, politely and gracefully or angrily, like my mom does, pointing out what's going on in the world? Nigel, I see you nodding, so.
Okay, diversity is a complex problem because it's there's going to be various different kinds of diversity which need to be tackled individually, whether it's gender issues or whether it's culture and race and ethnicity issues. And all of those need to be tackled individually. And at the same time, there's also the issue of privilege, where there's people who were previously in a position where they had the privilege that other people are trying to gain access to. So privilege, there's always going to be a resistance to that privilege. And at the same time, the other people are an underrepresented group. So there's going to be a hard uphill battle to get their voices heard out, while also countering the power of the people who are in power or who are privileged. So yeah, there's that, plus all the complexities of the individual issues. So it's gonna take a long time. So yeah, like Chaya said, we just have to keep on falling and getting up and until we figure things out.
So, okay, here's what it is for me, right? I could see how a lot of these issues feel like a loop. That's what we were saying before about at the highest corporate leadership level, there's just proof and proof and proof, and yet somehow we're still having this conversation. It can get really frustrating. I think that for me, what I end up doing is I focus on the stories that I know, right? And even then, that can kind of feel like a loop, right? Because I'll tell a story and then people will be like, oh my God, you're so brave. That was brave for sharing it. And I'm like, one, I've been sharing this exact same story for the past 4 years, you know? And two, there are a lot of stories out there for you to seek that aren't the story that you've heard. Right. And I think this is kind of what Demo was alluding to, right? That you have to try and seek them. From a business sense, there's a lot of power in prioritizing diversity because it just makes more sense. Like you're going to sell more cakes. And then if you are looking at being a better citizen, you can seek out those stories that are unfamiliar to you and see them, right? And realize that they're just somebody else's story. I'm just telling you about my life. It just so happens that my story isn't a dominant story that belongs to dominant culture. And some of the stories that I have tend to be about marginalized people that generally can't tell their stories, right? The most recent one that I've talked about was last week, a Texas judge, no less, blocked new applicants for DACA. And you know, that's the undocumented population in the United States, and most specifically the population of children who were brought to the United States and were undocumented. So they had absolutely no say in what's going on, and they can't get jobs, they can't go to university, they can't get a driver's license, they can't get an apartment legally, right, because they're undocumented. And so I was never a dreamer. That's what the act that DACA was based on was called. But I grew up in a part of Florida where there were a lot of those kids, right? And so I can tell those stories. Is that brave? I don't know, right? Like, it's just what I saw. I'm just describing what I saw with my senses. Have I been on a loop about it? Maybe, right? But it's a story that is just going to have to be told. And I think that it's easy to be bitter if what you're telling is what should be. And it's a lot easier to be part of a conversation if what you're telling is just the stuff you've seen that maybe not other people have seen.
Yeah, I agree. What I try to do is I sometimes try to empower people. I founded a fair fashion company in India, a part of my background. And one of my core values was empowerment to the workers on this small scale, you could say. And sometimes you just have to give people a voice, as easy as that. And if they choose they don't want to use it, that's also all right.
Yeah.
But that is what I also experienced in corporate, in the different corporate companies, is that you sometimes just need to empower people. Just say, okay, what is the worst thing that could actually happen? And that's a very Dutch way of doing things, but but it helped some. So in addition to what you were saying, yeah, for me, it also how would you say that? I don't get bitter because sometimes I get this positive vibe from empowering someone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And, you know, I think I might add, like, that's such a good point, right? Like, help others, tell what you see, don't live in this loop. And I think there's definitely an element there. I'm gonna make sure I say this well, of just not letting anything take over your entire life.
Oh, yeah.
Just because you are an activist and passionate about activism doesn't mean that it has to be everything you are. And that's true for anything, right? Anything you do at all. And the reason I pause, and so let me make sure I say this right, is because especially in some very marginalized communities around the world, that's just impossible. It's a part of every single thing you do everywhere, right? And those are the activist movements that, you know, we need to be on a loop about. That's not okay, right? Like, it shouldn't be okay. And so when we get into these like angry loops, how do you prevent yourself from getting bitter? It's almost like you pick your battles.
Yeah. One thing that Nigel touched on is privilege. And like I started probably realizing my privilege very recently. In companies, I think it's a hard topic to recognize your privilege, and in open source is very hard to recognize your privilege. Mike, you also have experience in the Joomla word, and I am curious also to hear a little bit about
privilege is very interesting in open source because I've been a part of a few open source communities, and I think this is true of a lot of open source communities because I met and talked with people at the Community Leadership Summit in Austin, Texas years ago. And, you know, in more recent years, I'm identifying opportunities that I've had that I've been privileged to have that other people, and, you know, yeah, you could say that everyone starts from, you know, can make the same growth, but you're not starting at the same point. So it's hard to recognize that. And, you know, we all can do better. But in open source specifically, I think that there's this weird side effect of privilege that's tied to length of time in the project. And the longer a contributor's been in the project, the more they're able to get away with that isn't acceptable. I've seen this, you know, in regards to maybe things against the code of conduct and things. And I'm speaking, you know, of very different projects here. Just because, oh, well, so-and-so has been here forever. And, you know, or they're one of the original co-founders, you know, of this CMS or whatever. And that is an interesting problem to have, because overall we want to all pull the rope in the same direction. But, you know, even in WordPress, it's very hard to break in and feel like, you know, you're getting noticed just because of the size. In Joomla, for example, it took me 15 months to be able to be accepted for my first volunteer position. How silly is that? I was willing to give my time and no one was replying back to me. And even in WordPress, I've heard things like on the marketing team, well, here's our Slack and good luck. You know, there's not really a good onboarding path a lot of times to get people active. And then by default, I've always said that in Joomla, the people that get the highest leadership positions are the people that are have the most time on their hands, because they're the ones that are visible in the Slacks and everything, and they a lot of the times they don't have jobs, but then all of a sudden they get these, they're a department coordinator or something because they're just present and they're helpful, but they might not be the best for the project. And I'd say that's an interesting side of privilege that doesn't get a lot of attention because it's not tied to any one group, but it still disenfranchises new potential talent. And a lot of times people just move on to something else and we are losing all that potential expertise, which is a shame.
Mike, you just uncovered the Pandora box.
And I was very careful in my words.
know.
Here, I'll be a little less careful. But speaking in broader terms, right? I think that a lot of people actually misunderstand the conversation about privilege, right? Because at its foundation, the conversation about privilege isn't, oh, you had this, so it was easy, right? The conversation about privilege is, here is this thing that never got in your way, that you haven't even had to think about, that other people have had to think about, right? And privilege is intersectional. So, I think that a lot of people, especially white Americans, are struggling, right, with the idea of white privilege in the United States. At the same time, my mind exploded when I found out that my white friends' families didn't talk about race at home. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
What's like, talk about at dinner?
In my house, like, no, right? And so that's what we misunderstand about privilege, is it's not like something that made your life easier, and it can span across all different dimensions, right? So again, I live in Austin, Texas. So I check off a lot of the American context underrepresented boxes, right? It's like, my family immigrated to America, so I'm an American immigrant, I'm a woman, right? I'm East Asian and Peruvian, which is an ethnicity, but whatever. All these boxes, right? But here's something that I recognize. I'm a cisgender heterosexual woman. Right? So, okay, I can have all of these different things that are existing within me, but the conversation of privilege is intersectional.
Yeah.
I have cisgender heterosexual privilege. Never in my life have I thought about being in a place where someone could attack me because I was LGBTQ. I've never thought about my family not loving me because they would not accept the person I love, right? And it doesn't mean that it made my life easier. It's just not something I ever thought about. And when we can wrap our minds around privilege and get really comfortable saying that, like, hey, my life was hard, and at the same time, here are privileges I had, then we can start having really productive conversations. And that's something, I have a lot of thoughts on that. I really think that we start to move forward in a really positive direction where everyone belongs when we get really comfortable thinking things like that about ourselves.
Yeah, I agree. Self-awareness is very important in everything, I think, because that's where you really start asking yourself the hard questions. And then also understanding what are the other questions that people are facing, which are obviously not the same questions that you are facing. So that's diversity. But let's kind of wrap it up. What do you think, very practical advice, organizations, whether they're companies or associations, can do?
Yeah, I guess we at Yoast, we have some practical things. We have funds. And of course, Francesca, you know a lot about them. But we have the Care Fund and the Diversity Fund. And it's actually, it's basically eliminating the hurdles, financial hurdles, empowering people just to have, just to speak at conferences or contribute. It's really practical and it doesn't need to cost that much. And of course, maybe we are a kind of bigger company, but also when we were a lot smaller, we already did that.
Yeah.
So if you believe in that, you can take away hurdles pretty easy, and I don't want to go easy about that. But I guess that's a very practical one, and I could advise everyone to do that.
Yes. Nigel, do you have any advice for our viewers?
Yeah, basically take it one step at a time. Find one thing that you can tackle and tackle it. Also, try to include people in planning things and organizing things.
Yeah.
So include everyone, and also try to push for more diverse leadership. So if you can get someone who's underrepresented to join the leadership, so that they set an example and also learn to become a representative of their group. That also helps.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks. Mike, over to you.
A simple thing you can do is when you post job postings, post them in not the standard areas. You know, there's niche job boards for everything out there, for female focused developers, to LGBT, to whatever the niche you're trying to be better at, because it's a big word, and maybe you'll need to take it a little bit slowly. But you'd be like, okay, we've realized we need more women leadership. So when you post your management positions, find those job boards that are female and non-binary focused and post them there. They might cost a little bit more, they might take a little bit more digging, but you'll get a different pool of candidates than if you just posted on Career Builder or Monster or any of those standard ones. And we're dealing with that now. When I'm trying to find new experts, we're testing a lot of different niches, and some are better than others, but you can also sometimes get more candidates, because a weird side effect of a job board that doesn't have a lot of postings is you get seen more. So that's kind of a nice side benefit than if you're just on page 500 or something.
Security by obscurity, hiring by niching. I like that. Thank you, Mike. Christy.
I mean, I'm kind of stealing Chaya's, but maybe I'm adding like a layer of yelling to it, right? Which is put your money where your mouth is. It's that simple, right? Like, pay us. I have a hand-stitched embroidery that one of my friends made me, and it has all these beautiful flowers on it, and I wish I could show it to you. I should have grabbed the prop. And it says, it's so gorgeous, and in cursive writing it says, F you, pay me, right? Like, it's just put your money where your mouth is. If you see a fund and you can contribute to it, do. That's actually something I love about Yoast. Not that I'm kissing up to two Yoast people here, but Yoast is putting their money where their mouth is. We're not getting like, we've created these resources to help female entrepreneurs, where it's like, no, here's some money. Like, you are a person with agency and you could use a leg up, and you are going to know how to use this money. Here's some money, and that's exactly what you need to be doing, and the easiest thing you can do. Demo mentioned seeking out businesses that are owned by underrepresented people and patronizing those businesses. It is very easy. Just buy stuff from them. You're going to need that stuff anyway. And just looking for small opportunities to do that. When you are looking, you will see them in more places. Give leadership opportunities to the underrepresented people that you come across in your work, right? Similar to what Demo is saying, our jobs at Codable are like two sides of the same coin. And it's the same thing. How do I look at different sources of opportunities? How do I make extra outreach? How do I give someone an extra leg up in something that I'm doing, in some project I'm working on? Can I give somebody a free consulting call? And it's, pay people. Just, yeah.
Wild hopes and dreams. It's the year, hopefully 2022, to be honest, not very far in the future. So it's the near future. We have managed to build a diverse ecosystem. How does that look like? Can I start with Nigel?
There's the example Christy gave where a white friend's family doesn't talk about race at home. So that's an ideal situation where it isn't a problem anymore that occupies your mind. And yeah, but I think that's a very hopeful thing to think about. But that would be an ideal situation.
All right. Okay. Thank you. Who goes next?
I want to go next because I was actually going to say something really similar. We had joked around about all the things that I want and could say, but I think the honest one for me, very similar to Nigel's, a world where the first question someone asks me isn't, where are you from?
Yeah.
Yes.
I've had that for most of my life. And something that I always tell people is that our world is changing. And the reason that I can tell that our world is changing and that I don't get bitter, and that I can see that progress, even though it's hard to see day to day, is because I have seen the way that specific problem has changed for me. Ever since I was a little kid, it drove me nuts. It was like, oh, who are you? So where are you from? You know, and there was never a simple answer, because for the viewers, my mother is Japanese, my father is Peruvian, and my family immigrated to the United States when I was 9. So I never knew how to answer that question, right? Because it was always followed up by some other question, and normally it was like terrible, right? It'd be like, where are you from? Well, I'm from Peru. Well, you don't look Peruvian. Where are you from? Well, you know, I live in Florida, but are you from Florida? You know, where are you from? Well, I'm from Peru. Really? I don't hear an accent. So I could give you endless stories.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we're talking this world in which no families, white or otherwise, talk about race, and the first question out of someone's mouth isn't, where are you from? But rather, what do you love to do? What are you excited about? How was your weekend? What do you love about your job?
I asked our friend Jenny Wong, who's from Manchester. The first time I met her, because she's from Asian descent, I said, where are you from? And this is an educated white woman in her 40s, because I was already 41 or 42, but that's also an aside that the Italian society is incredibly not diverse.
You're hitting an extremely important point right on the head there, right? Which is that conversation about privilege being this intersectional thing. All of us have caused some kind of harm.
Yeah.
It's just the truth. All of us. We can be in all kinds of different situations. We can be sensitive to different things, but we belong to some dominant culture, something that we've had a privilege on, and without a doubt, without knowing, without meaning to, without being bad people, we have said something that somebody else was like, you know. And so it's happened. Everybody's done it. And the best thing that we can do for diversity and inclusion is accept that and then work to solve it.
Yeah. Definitely. Chaya, do you want to go next?
Yeah, of course.
Your dream?
So, yeah, my dream. Okay, it would be my dream to wake up at the end of this paradigm shift, you could say, and stepping outside in a world where we consolidated all perspectives. The urgency to accelerate disappeared, and we all would feel like we have done it. We were able to move the stones in the river of humanity. That would be my dream.
Yes, it's a powerful one. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Mike, you're taking us home.
Yes.
I would love us to get to a point where them and they can be singular pronouns in grammar software.
Wow. Yes.
Because I remember, diagramming sentences, and I myself, this huge LGBTQ advocate, when I listen to a lot of audiobooks, and when they have non-binary characters and they use the pronouns them and they, it still trips me up mentally. And I know, like, a lot of people of my generation and older are just from a grammatical perspective, find it confusing. And when I'm trying to type it in, in Word, and it corrects me and stuff. So yeah, and language evolves, so that's what's exciting. But that's my answer to the question.
I want to live in all of your dream situations, if that was possible. Thank you. I'm going to teach you a Chaya thing that she taught to all the youngsters. So Chaya doesn't do applauses. She do applause, like a big one. So this is for us, for all of us. Applause. Thank you so much for this. It was fun, it was exciting, it was thoughtful, it was moving, it was invigorating. Yes, thank you, thank you so much, and thank you WordFest for having us go off and talk about a lot of things. I think that's all for us now, and I'll see you online and hopefully in person very soon. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hey, David Bissett from PostStatus here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the PostStatus Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
Oh, what a powerful and incredible session.
Yeah,
I
really
am
good.
incredibly grateful that we have the opportunity and the ability to be able to open up these conversations into the community. It's such an important topic and subject matter for us to be discussing, and thank you. Big thank you to all of the panelists. We are not going to be running a live Q&A following this session. The panelists, Francesca, Nigel, and various other members of the panel have been in the live chat throughout the entire session, answering the questions and having discussions on the topic as we've been going through. Nathan, I don't know what your takeaway from that session.
It was just fabulous to hear so many different opinions, and I was just riveted the entire time. It was really, really interesting.
Yep, absolutely. Interesting. We also got even comments coming in from the AV team behind the scenes in relation to what we're doing there. So
yeah, it provoked a lot of thought, didn't it?
It certainly did. It certainly did. Okay, we're going to wrap this session up. I just want to kick off by saying a big thank you to our global sponsors, Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic. Our multilingual partner, Weglot. Our continental sponsors, 20i and PostStatus. And our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Membership Pro. Plus, be sure to visit their tents and chat with them in the community tent. You may even win some prizes.
And also, don't forget, you can get your photo snapped in the photo booth, which is brought to us today by Content Journey and Stratic. And also check out the swag bag too for deals and gifts from the sponsors. And also, thank you to our media partners and our other micro sponsors. To coin a phrase, you all make our big orange hearts full. That's a nice way to round up this session. Hello. We're back.
We are. Welcome to our next session of WordFest Live.
The train just keeps on moving. What a great event it's been thus far, and there's plenty more to come. In fact, next up on the stage, we've got some community interviews with a chap called, Dan Maybe. I don't know if you've heard of him before, Dan, and Thomas Fanchin. Dan, you may want to cover your ears for this next little introduction. Dan has a passion for supporting people and believes in mentoring others. He thrives on the opportunity to help those around him grow, develop, and achieve their goals. He is, of course, the founder of Big Orange Heart, a mental health nonprofit that delivers his vision of better well-being within remote working communities. Dan also has extensive background in WordPress development, which he puts to use through his digital agency Blue 37, delivering high-performing websites to clients from all over the world. With a love for family life, Dan makes sure that they are always first during work hours and can be found spending time with them any chance he gets. And just on a personal note, he's a really nice person to spend time with.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And we also have coming up Thomas Finchin. So Thomas is the partnership manager at Weglot, establishing new connections and organizing events every day, breathing, talking, and dreaming about Weglot and a multilingual world. If he's not on a call with you, he's probably taking pictures of his cat, Roxy. And I want to say a big thank you to Tracy Apps for taking the time to run through these community interviews for us.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, you get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.
we have Dan with us right now, and you might see Dan in the background a lot with the big orange heart events and WordFest Live. But let's find out more about who you are as a person. So tell us your name, where you're from, and a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I'm Dan Maybe. As you just mentioned, I'm the founder of Big Orange Heart. We are a registered non-profit supporting and promoting positive mental health and well-being within the remote working communities. My background has, I've been in the WordPress community for many, many, many years now. I started using WordPress around, I think it was version 1.5. So way back when. I think we're coming up to about 15 odd years now of working within WordPress. I run a digital agency. I have been a solo business owner for many years, and I came up against those challenges and issues in relation to mental health at a personal level. And really was just looking around, trying to figure out, is there support? What can I do? Where can I connect? I was making really positive connections through things like meetups and WordCamps and the in-person stuff that we do as a community. But I really felt that I needed something else, something a bit more focused on kind of the well-being and the mental health side of running a business as a solo business owner. And that's really where the concept of Big Orange Heart was born.
I love it because it's such a needed thing and so prevalent, and especially solopreneurs, even just people that are in agencies or do remote work. It's really wonderful to see. Like that's one of the things that I loved about seeing like the WordPress community is that people like you see a need and you're like, well, let's do something about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you start something like that? How did you get this off the ground?
It's been a long journey, to be honest. I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this. There's been quite a lot going on in the background. We started, so the original concept for delivering something was actually back in 2014. And at that time, I believe I'm right. I was saying that Corey Miller had given a talk in a WordCamp 2013, I think it was, and it kind of triggered me to be more open and to talk more about mental health and well-being within our community. And at that point, I had started to have some conversations. I was running the WordPress London meetup at the time. And I started having conversations with people within that community and conversations around what would that potentially look like, how do we start being more open and having those conversations within our community? And I think just simply doing that within the meetup was the seed for me. That really was, it gave me the confidence and encouragement to start talking at other events, at other WordCamps, at other in-person events. And that it just snowballed from there, really. And I was very fortunate to be able to bring together some incredible people within our community to have these conversations, and many of whom have ended up sitting on the board of the organisation. And it's just meant that we've been able to, over the years, build something that's really had the ability to impact many lives through really just being more open about mental health within our community and encouraging conversation about mental health within our community.
Yes, I agree. And so is there, what was kind of the response that people had? And did you ever have any pushback, or like, how did that weigh on your own mental health?
It's a really interesting question, this one. So there's been kind of two elements to that. So there has been some periods where there has been some pushback, and quite rightly so. People talking about, is it safe? Should I be talking about it? At what level? I do very much support the message that let's be open, let's talk, but equally make sure that you are being responsible in that as well, in the way that you are communicating. I'm not saying go out and just air all your dirty laundry and just share all of your feelings with everybody, because you're exposing yourself, and that you have to ensure that you're doing that in a safe environment. You need to be sure that the individuals that you're having conversations with are either professional or of a trusted nature. You have a relationship with those individuals that is well established, and you have the ability to be able to communicate in a safe way. It's something that we tried to overcome by building our life groups within Big Orange Heart. So our life groups are very small, very intimate groups of individuals that take time to develop a professional or a working relationship with one another, to be able to then have conversations in those life groups, which are more open than necessarily we would encourage people to do in the open, in public groups or in public forums.
That's spectacular. Like it's one of those things where kind of I've always been like, yeah, this is something, and I see people talking about it, and that always encourages me, because I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I'm not alone, especially working, solopreneur or remotely, even in an office, it can be very alienating. So what are some of your tips, other than kind of finding that and building that group, that you found that really work for that kind of situation, working in technology?
It is absolutely reaching out, finding your community, and that's really where I'm not. This may sound counterintuitive, but I'm not going to say that Big Orange Heart is the right place for everybody. It's about finding the right people and being able to communicate and have those conversations. I mean, I kind of blending back into the previous question, I faced some challenges in the delivery of this, and I realized it was me. It was some of the the thoughts and the feelings towards what I was trying to do and what I was trying to achieve. It was down to me. I was I was explaining to a lot of people, we need to make sure that we're being open and having conversations, and we have these people to be able to talk to in a safe environment. And yet I found myself not doing that in the delivery of Big Orange Heart, because I almost felt I couldn't show any form of, for want of a better word, weakness. And I realized actually, no, you're going completely against everything you're saying here, because I was in a position where I needed to feel like I was able to lead at the front in what we were trying to achieve. But then that was causing a lot of isolation for myself, because I felt I couldn't then turn around and say, actually, you know what, I am struggling. I'm having some issues. And I realized that I'd created my own problem in that situation, because I'd set about delivering this to be able to enable people, to empower people to have those conversations. Say, you know what, look, actually, this is a bit of a challenge. Are there people out there that are having or have had experience that would enable me to be able to have a conversation with them to overcome the challenges that I'm facing? So it's been a really interesting journey, and I'm continually learning myself through this process. I'm continually learning how to deal with situations and deal with conversations and deal with emotions and feelings internally, as well as obviously people within our community and supporting them.
I think that's so wonderful, because I feel like the same, where it was like, oh, well, that's weakness, because that's kind of what it's what we're kind of conditioned to think about. And I'm sure it was probably through therapy or, talking with other people about mental health that I was like, no, it's actually a sign of our strength, because of we're taking something that really we have no control over and still doing the things. And we're, finding the people and doing that to keep going and to build those strengths. Once I started looking at it that way, and I start seeing people when they're like transparent, and I'm like, that is a very strong person. Like that, to me, reframing that. And I really love that's the kind of direction that we're taking tech and the WordPress community.
Absolutely. It's recognizing it is an internal strength. You're questioning yourself. If you're questioning yourself, I've given several talks and had many conversations around the topic of imposter syndrome, and it's something that if I'm honest, it's a personal strength. You're actually understanding your own periods where you need to question yourself in relation to what the direction you're taking, the decision making that you're going through. I think I would question if somebody's not experiencing imposter syndrome, is there actually a deeper issue there that possibly needs to be discussed at a professional level? Because you know, as we move through our lives, we often are evolving, we're adapting what we're doing. It's particularly if you're self-employed, often you're trying to take on tasks and activities that you may never have done before. You know, if you might be we see this quite often. We've got individuals that are absolutely fantastic developers or incredible designers. They've never looked at how to complete a tax return, or they've maybe never dealt with any kind of marketing in the past. Whereas they've got this skill and they want to be able to bring that skill to the forefront as a business. Well, actually, that comes with a whole load of additional skill or requirements for skills. But we're going, most of us will find ourselves in a situation where we're not comfortable with a skill that we're having to undertake.
And just being a user experience person, and some of the gigantic lists of cognitive bias, one of them being like some of these where it's like, if you think you know everything, you probably don't know anything. So it's almost like as if when we have that imposter syndrome, it's actually showing us that we really do know what we're doing in a weird kind of opposite day way. But and also just like for everyone watching, like to think, doesn't matter how many years or how many big projects you've completed or how much like praise and accolation you've gotten, we all have this. Like we'll have these moments. I've been doing this for 22 years. Have I been a fake for 22 years? No. But my brain is telling me that. Absolutely. And just bring that out in the open to people. So even people that are like, oh, I'm not the only one that thinks this.
That's right. That's right. It's been every time I've given a talk specifically focused around the imposter syndrome as a topic, it has by far and away created the most incredible conversations post the talk, in the hallways, etc. After the session, and it just incredible the amount of people who come up and say, I can relate. It's something that I've been challenged with, and that internal voice I've had to battle with, and it. To some degree, it's healthy. It's healthy to have that imposter syndrome because we are questioning ourselves and we're questioning whether the decisions and the paths that we're taking are the correct paths. It obviously can become unhealthy when it gets to a point where it's paralyzing us. It's preventing us from being able to move forward. And obviously, that's at a point where we need to be seeking additional support and having those conversations. And again, that's where at a very early stage, our life groups really come in and are really impactful, because it's those conversations, those kind of water cooler conversations that we would have if we're in an office, if we're sat at a desk. So I'm sat here at my desk. Often if I was in an office, there'd be somebody sat next to me, somebody behind me, somebody in front of me. And whether I knew it or not, I'd be verbalizing my thoughts. And through that, I'd be processing those thoughts. Whereas I sit here in my office on my own all day long. I don't have somebody else there that I'm just going to bat things back and forth. Even if I'm not realizing I'm doing it in an office environment, in an in-person environment. It's so the life groups really are that opportunity for people to have those those little snippets of conversations that enable people to process their thoughts and ideas.
Yeah, and people work much better than cats. My cat does not really help me a lot when I verbalize things, so she just kind of goes takes a nap. So anyway, but thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all you do. And your work is really well appreciated throughout the community. I speak for everyone for that, because I've seen and heard a lot of amazing things that people have like, oh, wait a minute, this is really encouraging. This is really this is for me. I feel feel safe. I feel comfortable. So thank you. And thank you for your time.
I very much appreciate that, and I really am grateful for everything that you're doing as well across WordFest here. I appreciate you've given a lot, volunteered into this, and I hope you have enjoyed this, and I hope obviously if you're out there listening to this on WordFest.live right now, you are enjoying this. If you're interested in knowing a bit more about Big Orange Heart, bigorangeheart.org. You get all the details.
Thank you.
Take care.
we have now with us Thomas, now from over in France, so a little bit of a time difference. But how are you? How are things?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great so far. Like we were just talking like a few minutes earlier, still transitioning from like full remote to starting to go to the office again. So it's a little bit of transition for me, but I'm doing great. And it's good to see the team again, to see everybody. It's a different vibe and it's great.
So tell us a little bit about you, what you do, your background.
Sure. So my name is Thomas. I work at Wigot. I'm a partnership manager there. I live in Paris, France. I'm from Mauritius, so it's a little island in the Indian Ocean, and it's been like maybe 8 years or so that I'm in France right now. At Wiglot, I'm in charge of everything that is related to the community. So I'm interacting with a lot of communities all around the world. I also organize all the events, the webinars, and I'm in charge of the support for the events and all of that stuff too. And I'm also in charge of the tech partners. So which means that basically if you want to integrate your app, your CMS, your themes, or your plugin to Wiglot, I'm basically in charge of making sure that you get the integration right.
Oh, that sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
What was your background before you got to Wiglot?
Yeah, so I used to work on the marketing digital field. So, but back before that, I was like doing studies about like finance, and then I was like, this is not what I want to do. So I did a quick switch, and I started to work first on like e-business and brand marketing, and then I was like, I met actually one of my I like to call it like one of my mentor now, who actually told me about marketing digital and all the things that you can do through it. So I started to work on marketing digital. I tried to open my own business because I love pets and I love my cats and all that stuff. So I tried to open a pet sitting business, and it didn't work out. And I kept on working on digital marketing, and then I started to work at Wigot. At first, I wasn't in charge of in charge of all the partnerships and all that stuff. It was more about digital marketing and working on SEO, SEA, and all of that. But through the year and through like what I've been working on and all of my mission, I've come up to like be like have the position that I have right now.
Nice, that's spectacular. You said you have how many cats do you have?
No, I only have one cat. She's named Roxy, and maybe she's going to come over during the interview, but I don't see her around.
My cat always waits until she's like, I don't like being on the camera. But then as soon as I'm on camera, she's right there. And I was like, you're just, so that's, well, we could talk about cats. That's a whole other section. But,
Yes.
So tell me, so you said you're moving back into the office now. So that it's funny because I used to do that all the time. And now I'm like that kind of, I'm like, how did I do that? Like, how has that, how did you adjust to working remotely and now going back into the office?
So at first, when I first started to work remotely, like I wasn't doing like so great. It was hard for me because I didn't have like what I call the basic setups. So I was working all over the place, like on the couch. We have a nice bar too. I was working on the bar, on the couch, and like all around the house. I always have like back pains because I was like doing like all this crazy position working. And then I started to realize like maybe I need to fix that stuff. So I had like I added my office setup that I have right now. So I started to feel a little bit more comfortable. And then I started to cook again because I used to do like McDonald's all day, fast food, Uber Eats, delivery, like all day. And I was like, maybe it's not so healthy for me. I need to find a nice balance. So I started to work on that too. And once I got those two parts done, I started to do like some sport too, some stretching before like working, meditation. And then I started to go out a little bit because we were all confined. So it was hard for us to go out too. But I started to go out. And then when it comes to the transition from being at home, fully remote, and started to go back at the office. So what I did was a little bit smart about it, because we always had the option at Weglot to actually go back at the office. But I didn't do that. I was like, we are all confined, let me just stay at home. And what I did is I started to go out again and go back to the office like gradually, like one time per week. And it helped me a lot, especially like with me, because I deal with, I have like panic attacks and all of that stuff that is not so great. But when you stay at home, you are in your comfort zone. So basically, I started to have like, usually like I have panic attacks, let's say like once or twice per year. And I started to have it twice per week. So I was like, it's a little bit weird that I'm getting it right now when we're transitioning back at the office, and I start to have like all these panic attacks at home. And I think about it and I was like, it's because I'm in my comfort zone. So I started to go out and do more stuff, travel again to my friends, and all of those tiny details that help a lot when you're dealing with that. And now I'm at the state where like I still have like some not issues, but I still feel the little tension sometimes. But when I feel it, I'm like, I need to go out. I need to go to the office. I need to travel and go at my friend's place, or I need to go to the supermarket. Because this is just like that can be like tiny stuff for like a normal person that doesn't care, doesn't have anything like. But I'm like, every time I get that feeling, I do it.
That's really smart. Like not only like the gradual, but really it took me so many years where I to get comfortable with, all right, well, I need to work or I need to focus. My ADHD can, like I'm just going to ignore that. I'm just going to sit here, and I still did. If I had gotten up and did something like productive, like cooked, like, or, did some exercise, or even just took a walk and, like relaxed my brain, I would be able to come back and then actually do the work. And it took me many years to kind of be okay with that. So that's actually really, really smart. And I did not get into the cooking, and now I am starting to do that, to get back into that habit. So it's also, I don't know how much delivery is popular in Paris, because I know
it's so popular. Everybody like get Uber Eats and food delivery every time, every day. Like, don't worry about it.
I know. It's so hard when it's just so convenient that it can just magically come to you.
Like you have your phone on and you just like click on 2 buttons and that's it.
I know, right? But then I realized that, like getting back into it, I missed that experience of it and using that as that, not just thinking about it as a task, but as something to enjoy.
Yep, exactly. I mean, you're right. And especially like, if you think about it, like thinking about how I like set up that gradual, all those gradual steps is because like, when back in the days, I used to have like a lot of panic attacks, and I was like, every time I tried to do like one more step and one more thing, and like instead of taking a 5-minute walk, I would take a 10-minute walk, or I will take the bus, or I will do something like just a little step, and at the end, it's like become like this big thing, and you can do everything. So
I love it. It's great. It's really, really good advice. So other than, how long have you been working with like the WordPress community?
I mean, it's been 3 years right now. So yeah,
nice.
That's
how has
nice.
your experience been with the WordPress community and your experience with other communities?
Obviously, with WordPress, it has always been like good vibes, positive vibes. It's crazy how I've met some friends through WordPress, but I've never met actually people that are abroad, and I've never met them in person. Even before all that crazy like remote stuff and all of that, we are used to work with them, and some of them have become like great friends, and they are in the US, in Germany, in Japan, in other places, and I never met them, and I have like great friends. So. And even when we went to events, because we used to travel to go to WordCamp Europe, I did WordCamp Marseille, and it was awesome. And it has always been like positive energy, and people come and talk to us, obviously, about Weglot and about what we do, and it's always great feedback, and we love it. And yeah,
I've had that is a really great thing, because I feel the same when people, especially us in the tech world, where
Mhm.
you know, I have met some of my closest friends
Mhm.
using digital means, and I have like other people that I've met that they're like they see that as like, oh well, those are your online friends, and I was like, no, this is actually a really great family, and I've met some amazing people, some that I have never met in person, or even where we've talked for months, and then all of a sudden we meet in person, and everyone's like, oh, it's like best friends meeting again. And we go to a restaurant, and everyone is like, the waiter's like, oh, how long have you all known each other? We're like, well, we just met, but I think that's amazing that we live in a day and age that's possible. So
True.
anyway, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for all the work that you do with the community. And yeah, just thank you for your time, and wonderful chatting with you.
All right. Thanks a lot for your time too. Bye.
Okay, that was really interesting. I enjoyed both of those, and I expect you didn't need to watch the first one, did you, Dan?
I enjoyed one of those.
Well, we've got something really quite unique and interesting coming up now. I'm really going to enjoy this because we've got somebody special with us. We've got Matt Graham coming on the call. Matt has pledged to walk 24,000. There he is doing the steps. 24,000 steps in 24 hours to raise funds to improve mental health in the tech community. So Matt is walking as a part of a challenge that we've run over the last month. It's called the hashtag 24K Steps to Mental Health Challenge, where members of the community pledge to walk a certain number of steps to raise funds for mental health.
Matt, welcome. Matt Graham is a developer just outside of Toronto, Canada. While waiting to get rich, he's been on a health journey, including long walks on the beach. Sounds wonderful. Matt, we can see you're walking. How's it going?
Not too bad. I started about half an hour ago, 45 minutes ago. So I don't know, my watch doesn't say how many steps I've done, but at this point I'm probably sitting at about 4,000 maybe.
Excellent.
So yeah, no, it's going pretty good. I'm feeling out of breath, but I think it might be a little bit of nerves. I haven't done a live stream in over a year, so
well, it's coming through great and looking good. Beautiful sunshine there.
Just utterly staggered that this whole tech thing works at all. You out in the middle of wherever you are walking. Where exactly are you, Matt?
So I'm in Whitby, which is about 40 kilometers, 25 miles east of Toronto. So we've got pretty good LTE coverage here. Speeds, when they first brought out LTE, I kind of joked that you could blaze through your monthly data cap in an hour and a half or something like that, assuming that you got the perfect speed every time. Obviously that doesn't work for wireless, but yeah, it's not too bad here.
I must confess, I'm very pleased to see that it looks modestly flat where you're walking. I was slightly nervous that you'd come on the screen and you'd be in the middle of a mountainous piece of terrain and were really struggling 24,000 steps up a hill.
Yeah, thankfully Southern Ontario is relatively flat. I mean, if I wanted to find a hill, I could, but for the most part, it's, like Southern Ontario and the Greater Toronto area, it's relatively flat.
Yeah.
Excellent. So Matt, just for awareness for everybody that's watching here, the 24,000 Steps Challenge was born out of the idea around WordFest as a 24-hour festival. We obviously we can be spending a lot of time in front of our screens whilst we're consuming this event. We wanted to really highlight and encourage the need for positive physical health and the direct correlation between our physical health and our mental health. And we put out the call for people to come and join us in this challenge. We expected a team of 6 people to take on 24,000 steps over the 24 hours. You stepped up and decided, no, I'm going to do the whole thing myself in 24 hours. So I would say hats off to you, but I've just noticed we're matching the old hats there as well.
Oh, look at
that! I was actually surprised how fast the hat got here, because it was going to be basically today that it was going to be delivered, and I got it like 2 days later. So there must have been someone in Canada that makes them.
Awesome. Yeah, the water bottle turned up as well today. So Matt, how are you?
I still haven't gotten mine, but that's okay.
No. How are you finding the walk?
Pretty good. This is actually, I've done this walk, this specific one, I think 4 times in the last month. Because I've been doing trying to stick between 8 and 10K every day to get myself psyched up for this one. But it's kind of nice that I'm breaking it up. So I'm doing 12,000 steps this morning, and then I'll do another 12 this afternoon.
That is awesome.
Can I ask, Matt, on a sort of personal level, why did you bother? Frankly, why did you make the effort to select this particular charity and this particular endeavor? What is it that you see as the importance of the work that Big Orange Heart are doing?
Well, I've come to realize in the last year and a half that I have really struggled with my mental health pretty much my entire life. But the pandemic has kind of exacerbated the situation. And the team there have been amazing. Just the Slack channel, how are you doing today, has been, when I feel like I've never been able to reach out to someone to talk about it, that channel was there. So, and I know that's only the tip of the iceberg. So yeah, like I say, I don't want people to go through what I've gone through without help, and you guys are there for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, Matt, just incredibly grateful for your support. Incredibly grateful for what you're doing, and obviously highlighting the need for positive physical health to support our mental health. Going to wish you the absolute best across this, and really grateful for all you're doing. If you are watching this live at the moment and you are in my.wordfest.live, please can I ask a big favor from all of you out there watching? Down at the bottom left-hand corner, you will see total raised. If you click on that, that will open up a little donation form. If you have the means, please do make a donation towards that. All the donations are going to be tallied up against all of the various 24,000 step challenges that are running over the course of running up to the event and over the course of today. We would really appreciate it. All funds are going directly into Big Orange Heart as a non-profit. Matt, really so happy this has worked. So happy we could get you on. Thank you very much.
Yeah, well done, Matt. Bravo.
Thank you very much.
We are now going to step out and we are going to take a short break. We've got about 20 minutes here before we come back into our next session. The reason we're having this break is to do exactly what we've just spoken about and take a bit of a break from the screen, but equally head over to the community tent and do connect with the sponsors and the community over in the community tent.
Speaking of sponsors, I'll probably just round it off with our sponsorship messages because this kind of event is helped enormously by a set of wonderful sponsors, and we'd like to thank them. The global sponsors being Cloudways, Elementor, GoDaddy Pro, Green Geeks, Nexus, and Stratic, and also multilingual partner Weglot. There's also our continental sponsors, 20i and Post Status, and also our live captioning sponsors, GiveWP and Paid Memberships Pro. Please be sure to visit their tents and go and chat with them. You might even win a few prizes. You never know.
And don't forget to get your photo snapped in the photo booth, brought to you by Content Journey and Stratic. And be sure to check out the swag bag too, full of deals and gifts from our sponsors. Also, thank you to our media partners and our micro sponsors. All of you make our big orange hearts full.
Hey, David Bissett from Post Status here. If you're having a good time today, you're going to have a greater time in the Post Status Club year-round. So go to poststatus.com/club to join hundreds of WordPress professionals and find out how we can send you the best insights in the ecosystem every week.
Here at Green Geeks, WordPress works awesome. We offer a one-click installer with automatic updates, tons of developer tools like WP Staging, WP CLI, and Git, free WordPress migration, and access to award-winning expert support 24/7, 365. Plus, WordPress sites hosted on our platform are lightning fast. Most importantly, Green Geeks is the most eco-friendly WordPress web hosting company on the planet.
To put it simply, plugins power WordPress. But when a plugin fails, so does your site. With fully managed WordPress hosting from Nexus, You get carefully curated plugins that will save you from having to search the plugin database to find the right tools. And you'll never have to worry about managing or updating plugins again. Start building a site that loads ultra fast with instant auto scaling, visual comparisons, plus automatic plugin updates and platform updates. With fully managed WordPress from Nexus, better is built in.